We all probably read George Orwell's Animal Farm in school, right? But what if it's not just a story about a farm revolution gone sideways? Let's reframe it. Think of it more like a thought experiment, a little psychological laboratory on the page. It's designed to see what happens when you take our best ideals and mix them with power, fear, and, well, our basic human, or in this case, animal nature.
And that little experiment brings us face to face with this really haunting question, one we see over and over again in history. Why is it that the road to a better world, a road paved with the best intentions, so often ends up leading to a new, sometimes even worse, kind of oppression? That's the psychological puzzle we're going to try and piece together today.
Okay, so let's dive right in. The book gives us this perfect, self-contained little world to study how groups work. And this isn't just a commentary on one specific political system. Not at all. It's a timeless look at how any group of people can be manipulated, how our own minds can kind of turn against us, and how the very idea of reality can be bent and twisted.
To really get what happened on the farm, we've got to start at the very top of the food chain. We're going to break down the psychology of the leader, Napoleon the pig. What actually goes on in someone's head when they're given total control over everyone else? Let's dig into the mechanics of how power corrupts.
Napoleon is just a textbook case of what psychologists call the authoritarian personality. And this is so much more than just wanting to be the boss. It's a whole mental operating system. It sees the world purely in terms of hierarchy. Who's strong, who's weak, who's on top. This personality type craves order. It hates dissent, and it is basically custom-built to tear down a system of equality and replace it with a pyramid of power.
What's so fascinating here is how this isn't a one-time thing. It's a process, a chillingly predictable one. It's like a downward spiral. First, Napoleon grabs all the decision-making power for himself. Once he has that, his ability to connect with others just shrivels up. Empathy is a weakness for him. Pretty soon, things like public executions become just normal policy. His rivals, they aren't just pigs he disagrees with anymore, they're traitors, enemies, not even real animals. And then, the final, ultimate power move, he literally rewrites the past to fit whatever he needs it to be today.
But here's the thing. A tyrant is just one guy, right? Or one pig. His power means nothing without the people, or animals, who go along with it. So now, we've got to flip the coin and look at the other, much more complicated side of this. Why did everyone else let it happen? This is where we get into the psychology of the masses.
Okay, imagine a set of scales. On one side, you have each animal's own individual moral compass, their gut feeling of what's right and what's wrong. But on the other side, you've got this incredibly heavy weight called groupthink. That's the powerful psychological urge to just fit in, to keep the peace, to not be the one making waves. And as the pressure for unity gets heavier and heavier, that scale just tips. Critical thinking gets tossed out the window because the desire to belong is just so much stronger than the courage to stand up and say, hey, wait a minute.
And this leads to this next brilliant layer of self-deception, cognitive dissonance. Think about it. The animals believe we fought a revolution for total equality. But then they see the pigs are sleeping in beds in the farmhouse. Holding those two conflicting ideas in your head at the same time is super uncomfortable. It creates this mental static. And to make that static go away, the brain does this little magic trick. Instead of facing the awful truth, it's just easier to change the memory or tweak the belief. It's a defense mechanism, really. It protects your sanity, but it costs you the truth.
And this gets us to a really crucial, kind of paradoxical idea. It's the psychological engine that keeps Boxer, the loyal horse, going. The harder he works, the more he suffers for the farm, the more he has to believe it's all worth it. To admit that all his pain and sacrifice was for nothing, that's just too devastating to even think about. So his sacrifice doesn't make him question things. It actually makes him dig in his heels and believe even harder. It's a tragic, vicious cycle.
And you can see these different psychological roles played by all the other animals. You've got Boxer, the true believer, whose hard work ends up being a tool used against him. Then there's Clover, who kind of represents that quiet little voice in the back of our own heads. She feels that something is wrong, she senses the lies, but she can't ever bring herself to speak up. And Benjamin, the cynical donkey, he's smart enough to see it all, but he's so jaded he believes nothing can ever change, so why bother? And of course, the sheep, who are just the background noise, the automatic applause that makes it all seem legitimate.
Okay, so we've got a leader who's wired for dominance, and a population that's psychologically primed to go along with it. So what connects the two? Now we're going to look at the system itself, the invisible architecture of control, the actual tools used to build and maintain this new reality. You know, the most powerful weapon on the whole farm isn't Napoleon's guard dogs, it's Squealer's words. He is the master of propaganda, the ultimate spin doctor. He gets that if you control the language, you control how people think. For example, food rations aren't cut, they're readjusted. It sounds so much better, right? And if you just repeat these new phrases, these new frames over and over again, the lies stop sounding like lies. They just become the truth.
And this right here is the single most chilling example of that power. Just look at how a core, sacred principle isn't erased completely. No, that's too obvious. It's corrupted with just a few extra words. And that tiny addition completely flips the meaning on its head, while making it seem like the old rule is still there. It's a terrifying showcase of how flexible our memory is, and how the entire foundation of a society can be changed by whoever's holding the paintbrush.
And what's the fuel for this whole engine? It's fear. The constant threat that the farmer will come back, the growling dogs lurking in the corner, it's the ultimate psychological control knob. As you can see, fear basically works like a light switch for our brains. It flicks off our ability for complex, critical thinking and flicks on our ancient, primitive need for safety. When we're scared, we're not looking for a nuanced debate. We're looking for a protector.
So, after all this, as we step back and look at our little laboratory, what are the results? What has this experiment, this story actually shown us about power and the way our own minds work?
Well, the findings are pretty powerful. We learn that all of us are wired to fall for a good story, especially one that promises to save us. We see that our own memories aren't like video recordings. They're more like stories we tell ourselves, and they can be edited. We find out that when things get tough, fear will beat our best ideals almost every time. And maybe the most unsettling lesson of all, power isn't just a tool, it's a lens that warps how you see the world, making that line between liberator and oppressor shockingly, terrifyingly thin.
And that really brings us to the final major takeaway from all this. Tyranny is never a one-man show. It's more like a dance between the one in power and the ones who are not. It takes the cruelty of a few to get it started, sure, but it's built and sustained on the very human, very understandable needs of the many. The need to believe our sacrifices meant something, the need for safety, and our incredible and sometimes dangerous ability to just get used to things. It's a warning, really, not about some distant them, but about us.